The massive crystal dome of Nexus Prime sparkled against the black space around it. Inside the Great Council Chamber, 12 different alien species sat in their assigned seats. The room was huge, with curved walls that reached up high into the ceiling. Strange lights floated in the air, making everything glow with soft colors. Chancellor Vextar stood at the center podium. He was tall and thin, with 4 yellow eyes that never seemed to blink at the same time. His blue skin had patterns that moved like water when he was angry. Right now, those patterns were moving very fast. "The human problem grows worse each day," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "They expand into sectors that belong to us. They ignore our warnings. They act like they own the galaxy." Around the circle, other aliens nodded and made sounds of agreement. The Chromalians hissed through their sharp teeth. The Velthari chimed like broken glass. The Etherians hummed in their deep, slow voices that sounded like distant thunder. War Minister Gorak of the Chromalians stood up. He was covered in black scales and had claws that could tear through steel. "My fleets are ready," he growled. "Give me the word, and I will crush their little colonies before they spread any further." "Patience," said Elder Morden of the Etherians. He was ancient and wise, with skin that looked like old tree bark and eyes like stars. "We must follow proper procedures. The Council has rules for dealing with primitive species." "Primitive?" Sharthok of the Velthari rang out like a bell. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. "They have been in space for less than 100 years. We have traveled the stars for thousands. They are nothing." Chancellor Vextar raised one of his long arms for silence. "We will vote on the proper response, but first we must discuss the extent of their expansion. They have built colonies in the Kepler system, the Wolf sector, and now they approach the border worlds near." The great doors at the back of the chamber burst open with a loud crash that made everyone jump. The sound echoed through the dome like thunder. All 12 species turned to look. 3 humans walked through the doors like they were entering their own living room. They wore simple uniforms, dark blue with patches that showed a small blue and green planet. No fancy robes, no ceremonial armor, no gifts or symbols of respect, just regular clothes and confident smiles. The man in front was tall with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. He looked around the chamber like he was impressed but not intimidated. Behind him walked a woman with red hair pulled back tight and sharp green eyes that seemed to see everything at once. The third human was older, with gray hair and a face that suggested he had seen many things and found most of them amusing. They walked down the central aisle toward the podium. Their boots made soft sounds on the crystal floor. No one spoke. The entire council chamber had gone perfectly silent. Chancellor Vextar's 4 eyes all focused on the humans at once. His skin patterns moved faster now, turning darker shades of blue and purple. "Who dares enter this sacred chamber without permission? Who violates the ancient protocols of the Galactic Council?" The first human stopped walking and looked up at the Chancellor with a friendly expression. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Force. This is Commander Lisa Brooks and Ambassador Rick Taylor. We heard you were having a meeting about us, so we thought we should probably show up." A wave of shock rippled through the chamber. Several aliens made sounds of outrage. War Minister Gorak's claws scraped against his chair. Sharthok's crystal body rang with a harsh, discordant note. "Impossible," hissed Gorak. "Humans have no right to be here. You are not members of this council. You are barely worthy of notice." Lisa Brooks stepped forward slightly. Her voice was calm and professional. "We've been monitoring your communications. Seems like several of you are discussing military action against human colonies. We figured it might be better to talk about this face-to-face instead of you planning behind our backs." Elder Morden's star-like eyes grew brighter. "You admit to espionage against the Council?" Rick Taylor, the older human, actually laughed. It was a warm, genuine sound that seemed strange in the formal chamber. "Espionage? You're broadcasting on open channels. We just happen to be listening." Chancellor Vextar drew himself up to his full height, which was impressive even by alien standards. "You will prostrate yourselves before this council immediately. You will beg forgiveness for this intrusion. Then you will leave and await our judgment on your species. Jake Morrison looked around the chamber, taking in all the alien faces staring at him with anger and disbelief. Then he walked over to one of the empty observer chairs and sat down, making himself comfortable. Sorry, but we don't really do the whole prostrating thing, he said. How about we just talk instead? You know, like adults. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Half the council started shouting at once in their various languages. Gorak roared and showed his fangs. Sharthok's crystal body flashed with angry red light. 3 different species demanded the humans be arrested immediately, but through all the noise, Jake Morrison just sat in his chair, completely relaxed. Lisa Brooks stood beside him with her arms crossed, watching the aliens with interest. Rick Taylor actually pulled out a small device and seemed to be taking notes. Chancellor Vexitar slammed his staff against the floor 3 times. The sound rang through the chamber like a gong, and slowly the shouting died down. You dare mock this council? He said, his voice deadly quiet now. You dare show such disrespect to powers that ruled the galaxy before your world even knew fire? Jake looked up at him with those calm blue eyes. We're not mocking anyone. We're just here to talk. You want to discuss humans? Great. We're humans. Let's discuss. The council chamber erupted like a volcano. 12 different species all started talking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of sounds. Some roared, some chimed, some buzzed like angry insects. The floating lights in the chamber flickered, as if they were responding to all the emotion. Chancellor Vexitar raised his staff high and slammed it down again. The crystal floor rang like a bell, and slowly the noise died down. His 4 eyes were all locked on Jake Morrison, who was still sitting comfortably in the observer chair. Stand up, the Chancellor commanded. You will show proper respect to this council. Jake looked around the chamber with mild interest. I'm comfortable here, thanks. But please, continue with your meeting. Don't let us stop you. War Minister. Gorak's scales rattled with rage. Insolent mammals! You dare sit in the presence of your betters? Lisa Brooks turned to look at the Chromalian War Minister. Her green eyes were steady and calm. Our betters? That's interesting. What makes you better than us? We have conquered 1,000 worlds, Gorak snarled. We have ruled space for 5,000 years. And yet you're here complaining about humans who have been in space for less than a century, Rick Taylor said, still taking notes on his device. Makes you wonder what you've been doing with all that time. Sharthok's crystal body flashed bright red. You mock the ancient ways. You ignore the sacred protocols that have kept peace in the galaxy for millennia. Jake leaned back in his chair. What protocols? Nobody sent us a copy. Were we supposed to get some kind of handbook when we invented the warp drive? Elder Mordoon stood up slowly. His ancient voice filled the chamber like distant thunder. Ignorance is no excuse. All species must present tribute before addressing the council. All must kneel before the assembled powers. All must speak only when granted permission. Lisa reached into her jacket and pulled out a silver thermos. She unscrewed the top and the smell of coffee drifted through the chamber. Several aliens wrinkled their noses or made sounds of disgust. Tribute, she said, pouring the dark liquid into the cap. Sure want some coffee? It's from Earth. Pretty good stuff. The offer was met with stunned silence. Finally, a small blue alien from the Centauri delegation spoke up. Is that a beverage? Colombian blend, Lisa said. We've got sugar packets too if anyone's interested. Chancellor Vexitar's skin patterns were moving so fast now they looked like a storm. This is not tribute. Tribute must be precious. Metals, rare crystals, or works of art worthy of the council's greatness. Rick looked up from his note-taking. Oh, you want something expensive? Jake, show them your watch. Jake held up his wrist. On it was a simple black device that looked like nothing special. Standard issue Earth chronometer. Nothing fancy. That's not the point, Rick said with a grin. Tell them what it's made of. Mostly. Titanium and some rare Earth elements, Jake said. Why? Elder Morden leaned forward, his star-like eyes growing brighter. Rare Earth elements? Which ones? Oh, the usual. Neodymium, europium, terbium, dysprosium. Pretty standard stuff for our electronics. The council chamber went very quiet. Several species looked at each other with what might have been concern. Sharthok's crystal body had stopped flashing. You use rare earths in common devices? Sure, Lisa said, taking a sip of her coffee. Why wouldn't we? Earth's got plenty of them. Plenty? War Minister Gorak's voice had lost some of its anger. How much is plenty? Jake shrugged. I don't know the exact numbers. Lisa's better with the technical stuff. Lisa pulled out a tablet and scrolled through some data. Let's see. Last year we mined about 200,000 tons of rare earth elements. This year we're on track for about 300,000 tons. The silence that followed was so complete that the only sound was the soft humming of the station's life support systems. Chancellor Vextar's 4 eyes were all blinking in different patterns now. 300,000 tons. Elder Morden repeated slowly. Per year. Give or take, Lisa said. We're opening new mines all the time. Turns out asteroid mining is pretty efficient once you figure out the basics. Rick put away his note-taking device and looked around the chamber. So what were these protocols you mentioned? Something about permission to speak? Chancellor Vextar seemed to remember where he was. Yes, no species may address the council without a majority vote granting permission. This is the law. Okay, Jake said, let's vote then. You cannot call for a vote. Sharthok rang out. Only council members may call for votes. But you just said we need a vote to speak, Rick pointed out. And we're already speaking, so either we have permission or your rules don't make sense. The logic was so simple that several council members looked confused. A few started whispering to their neighbors in their own languages. Chancellor Vextar tried a different approach. The ancient charter clearly states that only recognized galactic powers may participate in council proceedings. Who wrote this charter? Lisa asked. The founding species, of course. Which were? The Zephyrians, the Chromalians, the Velthari, the Etherians, and 8 others. Jake nodded thoughtfully. And humans weren't around when you wrote it? Of course not. Your species was still primitive, so we didn't agree to it. Another long silence. Elder Morden's ancient face showed something that might have been confusion. You did not agree to the charter? Hard to agree to something that was written before we knew you existed, Rick said reasonably. I mean, you wouldn't expect us to follow rules we never agreed to, would you? The question hung in the air like smoke. Around the chamber, different species began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. The Chromalians hissed at each other. The Centauri delegates chimed rapidly back and forth. Even the normally calm Etherians seemed agitated. While the aliens argued, Jake casually activated his wrist device. The small screen showed a map of the station, complete with detailed schematics. He scrolled through the data with mild interest. War Minister Gorak noticed the movement. What are you doing? Just looking at your station blueprints, Jake said. Nice design. Who built it? Those are classified defense specifications, Gorak roared. Jake looked confused. But they're right here in the public database, see? He turned his wrist so others could see the screen. Structural plans, power grid, life support systems, pretty thorough documentation. Chancellor Vextar's skin patterns stopped moving entirely. That information is restricted to council members only. Then why is it available to anyone who asks? Lisa said, pulling up the same data on her tablet. Your computer system is very cooperative. Rick finished reading something on his own device and looked up with interest. According to this, the station has 73 different security protocols, but none of them seem to be active right now. The silence that followed was different from the others. This one felt dangerous. Chancellor Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed as he stared at the humans. The silence in the chamber felt heavy, like the air before a storm. Finally, he spoke in a low voice that carried clearly through the dome. You think you are clever, he said. You think because you can access our computers you are our equals. Let me show you how wrong you are. He pressed a control on his podium, and the air above the chamber filled with light. Holographic images appeared, floating in 3 dimensions for everyone to see. Massive spaceships hung in the darkness, their hulls gleaming with weapons and armor. "Behold the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet," the Chancellor announced. 5,000 warships, each one capable of destroying planets. This is what real power looks like. The ships in the hologram moved in perfect formation, firing their weapons at imaginary targets. Planets exploded in balls of fire. Space stations crumbled into pieces. The display was meant to terrify. Jake Morrison looked up at the floating images with mild interest. "Nice ships, how old are they?" The question seemed to surprise Chancellor Vextar. "What does that matter?" "Just curious. The design looks kind of retro." War Minister Gorak stood up, his black scales rattling with anger. "Enough games!" He activated his own controls, and new images filled the air. Chromalian battlecruisers appeared, darker and more menacing than the Zephyrian ships. "The Chromalian war fleet," Gorak snarled. "We have conquered more worlds than your primitive minds can count. Our weapons can burn the atmosphere off planets. Our soldiers have never known defeat." More images flashed by. Chromalian troops in power armor storming alien cities, massive plasma cannons reducing mountains to ash, orbital bombardments turning entire continents into glass. Lisa Brooks pulled out her tablet and started making notes. "Interesting targeting systems. Are those Mark 7 plasma accelerators?" Gorak blinked in surprise. "How do you know our weapon classifications?" "Lucky guess," Lisa said. "We use Mark 12 accelerators, more efficient energy transfer." Around the chamber, other species began activating their own displays. The Velthari showed crystal ships that moved like liquid light. The Etherians displayed ancient vessels covered in mysterious symbols. Each species tried to outdo the others with shows of power and technology. The humans watched it all with polite attention, like tourists at a museum. When the last display finished, Elder Morden spoke in his deep, ancient voice. "Now you see the truth, young humans. We are your superiors in every way. We command fleets that span the galaxy. We possess technology beyond your understanding. You should kneel before us and beg for mercy." Rick Taylor looked around the chamber thoughtfully. "That's quite a show. Mind if we share a few things too?" Before anyone could object, he activated a small projector from his jacket. New images appeared in the air above the chamber. The first showed a massive asteroid field, rocks tumbling slowly through space. "This is the Ceres mining complex," Rick said casually. "We built it last year." The image zoomed in to show hundreds of human ships working among the asteroids. They moved with precision and speed, their mining lasers carving through solid rock like it was paper. Huge processing stations floated nearby, refining raw materials into finished products. "Nice operation," Jake added. "Produces about 10 million tons of processed metals per month." Several aliens leaned forward to get a better look. The Centauri delegate made a whistling sound. 10 million tons per month? "Good months," Lisa corrected. "Bad weather sometimes slows us down." "Weather?" Sharthok's crystal body chimed with confusion. "In space. Solar storms, gravitational flux, that kind of thing. Space weather." The next image showed a planet that looked like hell. The surface was covered in lava, and the atmosphere glowed, red with heat. Steam and poisonous gases swirled in thick clouds. "This is New Dante," Rick continued. "Lovely vacation spot. Surface temperature around 800 degrees. Atmosphere mostly sulfur dioxide and methane. Uninhabitable," Elder Mordun stated firmly. "No species can survive such conditions." The image zoomed in to show a large city built right on the planet's surface. Humans in environmental suits walked the streets between gleaming buildings. Ships landed and took off from spaceports carved into the volcanic rock. "Tell that to the 50,000 people who live there," Jake said. "They're doing pretty well. Great geothermal power, and the sulfur mining is excellent." More images followed. Human settlements in the frozen void between stars, powered by fusion reactors. Human ships diving through the outer layers of suns to collect exotic matter. Human researchers working in laboratories built inside black hole event horizons. Each image showed humans doing things that other species considered impossible. War Minister Gorak's voice was quieter now. How do your people survive in such places? Same way we survive anywhere, Lisa said. We adapt. We build better tools. We figure out solutions. But the radiation alone should kill you, Sharthok protested. We have good shielding, Jake said simply. The final image appeared, and this one made the entire chamber go silent. It showed Earth's solar system, but not as the aliens expected. The space around Earth was filled with structures. Massive orbital stations, mining platforms, defense satellites, and thousands of ships moving in organized patterns. Home sweet home, Rick said with a smile. Population about 15 billion now between Earth and the orbital habitats. Chancellor Vextar's skin patterns had stopped moving entirely. 15 billion? Growing every year. We like big families. Elder Morden leaned forward, his star-like eyes bright with something that might have been fear. Your ships? How many do you have? Lisa checked her tablet. Active military vessels, about 12,000, civilian ships, maybe 80,000. We're building more all the time. Building? Gorak's voice was barely a whisper. How many per year? Depends on what we need. Last year we launched about 3,000 new ships. This year we're on track for 5,000. The silence that followed was complete. No alien spoke. No equipment hummed. No lights flickered. The council chamber had become as quiet as deep space. Finally, a small voice from the Centauri delegation broke the silence. How long have your people been in space? About 90 years, Jake said. Give or take. 90 years, the alien repeated. Started slow, Rick admitted. Took us a while to figure things out, but once we got the hang of it, things moved pretty fast. Chancellor Vextar's four eyes blinked in sequence, very slowly. When he spoke, his voice was different, smaller somehow. What do you want from us? Jake Morrison stood up from his chair and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring back at him. Some showed fear, some showed confusion, some showed something that might have been respect. Want from you? He said. Nothing, really. We just want to be left alone to do our thing. But if you're planning to attack our colonies, well, that might be a problem. War Minister Gorak slammed his clawed fist on his chair. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. His black scales were standing up along his neck, a sure sign of rage among his people. Enough of this, he roared. I have heard enough. Human lies and boasting. The council will vote now. We will authorize military action against these upstart mammals before they spread any further. Several other aliens nodded agreement. The Velthari representative chimed approval. Two of the smaller species made sounds that meant yes in their languages. The mood in the chamber was shifting toward violence. Chancellor Vextar raised his staff. War Minister Gorak calls for a vote on military intervention against human expansion. All in favor? Hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages began, rising around the chamber. The Chromalians voted yes immediately. The Zephyrians followed. The Draxian hive mind buzzed its agreement. One by one, species after species voted to authorize force against humanity. Jake Morrison watched the vote with calm interest, like he was observing a mildly entertaining show. Lisa Brooks was still taking notes on her tablet. Rick Taylor had pulled out what looked like a sandwich and was eating it quietly. The vote is 11 in favor, 1 abstention, Chancellor Vextar announced. The Galactic Council hereby authorizes military action to contain human expansion and bring their colonies under council oversight. The chamber filled with satisfied sounds from the alien delegates. War Minister Gorak showed his teeth in what passed for a smile among his people. Sharthok's crystal body flashed with pleased colors. Jake finished watching the vote and stood up slowly. He brushed imaginary dust off his uniform and looked around the chamber with that same calm expression. Interesting vote, he said. Mind if I ask you something? Chancellor Vextar's four eyes narrowed. You have no right to speak. The vote is final. Oh, I'm not arguing with the vote, Jake said. I'm just curious about something. How long do you think your fleets will take to reach human space? The question seemed odd. War Minister Gorak tilted his head. 3 days to mobilize, 2 weeks to reach your outer colonies. Why do you ask? Just wondering, Jake said. He touched his wrist device, and a soft beeping sound filled the chamber. Lisa, could you show them the tactical display? Lisa Brooks looked up from her tablet. Sure thing. She pressed a few controls and new holographic images appeared above the chamber. What the aliens saw made several of them gasp in shock. The display showed the space around Nexus Prime Station. Dozens of red dots surrounded the council facility, each one marked with human ship designations. More red dots appeared near every major fleet base and homeworld represented in the chamber. Those are our ships, Lisa explained casually. Been keeping an eye on everyone since you called this meeting. Elder Morden's star-like eyes grew very bright. Impossible, our sensors detect nothing. That's because we didn't want you to detect anything, Rick said, finishing his sandwich. Stealth technology. Pretty useful stuff. Chancellor Vexitar was staring at the display with all 4 eyes. How many ships? Around here. Maybe 40, Jake said. Each of your homeworlds has about the same number watching them. Just keeping track of things, you understand? War Minister Gorak's scales were starting to flatten against his skin. You dare threaten the council? Threaten? Lisa looked genuinely confused. Nobody's threatening anyone. We're just here. She pressed another control and the display changed. Now it showed the internal systems of Nexus Prime Station itself. Red indicators flashed throughout the structure. Although I should mention, she continued, your weapon systems seem to be having some technical difficulties. Sharthok's crystal body went completely clear with shock. What have you done? Nothing permanent, Rick assured her. Just a little software update. Your guns won't fire right now, but they'll work fine once we leave. Around the chamber, aliens began checking their own systems frantically. Control panels flashed with warning lights. Communication systems reported errors. Even the life support monitors showed human access codes in their logs. You have violated our sovereign space, Chancellor Vexitar said, but his voice lacked the authority it had held before. This is an act of war. Jake Morrison walked closer to the central podium. His boots clicked softly on the crystal floor. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but clear. No, he said. This is a demonstration. He gestured toward the holographic display still floating above them. Every ship you see up there got here without your sensors detecting them. Every system we accessed, we did while you were sitting right here talking. Your entire station is under our control and you never even noticed. Lisa stood up and joined him. The point isn't that we can do this. The point is that we did do this. While you were voting to attack us, we were already here. But we don't want to fight you, Rick added, walking over to stand with his colleagues. Fighting is messy and expensive and somebody always gets hurt. We'd rather just talk. Elder Morden's ancient voice was very quiet. What do you propose? Jake looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each alien representative. Simple. You leave us alone, we leave you alone. You don't attack our colonies. We don't have to defend them. Everyone goes home happy. And if we refuse? War Minister Gorak asked, though his scales were now completely flat against his skin. Then you attack us, Jake said with a shrug. And we defend ourselves. And then we'll have to have another conversation about who controls what in this galaxy. The threat was delivered so casually, so matter-of-factly, that it took a moment for its meaning to sink in. When it did, several aliens made sounds of distress. Chancellor Vexitar's skin patterns were moving again, but slowly now, like tired waves. You speak of conquering the galaxy? Conquering? Rick laughed. Who said anything about conquering? The galaxy's big enough for everyone. We just want our fair share. And what do you consider a fair share? Sharthok asked, her crystal body dim with worry. Lisa pulled up a star chart on her tablet and projected it into the air. The galaxy appeared before them, with different colors marking different territories. The empty systems, she said simply. The worlds nobody wants, the asteroid fields and dead planets and dangerous nebulae. We'll take the places you can't use and make them work. That's it? Elder Morden sounded surprised. That's it, Jake confirmed. We're not interested in taking your worlds or conquering your people. We just want room to grow. War Minister Gorak leaned forward in his chair. And if we agree to this arrangement, you will withdraw your ships? Sure, Jake said. Soon as we're done talking here, they'll head home. You'll never see them unless you come looking for trouble. Chancellor Vexitar was quiet for a long moment, all four eyes blinking in different patterns. Finally, he spoke. The Council will need time to consider your proposal. Of course, Rick said agreeably. Take all the time you need. We'll be around. Jake touched his wrist device again, and the holographic displays began to fade. Oh, and just so you know, we'll be monitoring your communications for the next few days. Nothing personal, just want to make sure everyone understands the new situation. As the humans turned to leave, Lisa called back over her shoulder. Your weapon systems will be back online in about an hour. Thanks for the meeting. The three humans walked back up the central aisle toward the chamber doors. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Not one alien spoke until the great doors closed behind them with a soft sound. Then the chamber erupted into chaos once again. The council chamber exploded into noise the moment the humans left. 12 different species all started talking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of anger, fear, and confusion. War Minister Gorak was on his feet, his claws scraping against the crystal floor. This is impossible. How did they get past our defenses? How did primitive mammals outsmart the greatest minds in the galaxy? They are not primitive, Elder Morden said quietly, but his ancient voice carried through the noise. That much is clear now. Chancellor Vextar slammed his staff down repeatedly, trying to restore order. His four eyes were blinking rapidly and his skin patterns moved like storms. Silence. We must discuss this situation calmly. But calm was the last thing anyone felt. The Velthari representative was flashing angry red colors. The Centauri delegates were chittering nervously to each other. The Draxian hive mind was buzzing so loudly it hurt to listen to. They made fools of us, Sharthak chimed, her crystal body resonating with frustrated harmonics. They walked in here like they owned the place, and it turns out they actually do. Not yet, Gorak snarled. We can still fight. We can call in reinforcements from across the galaxy. We can mobilize every ship, every weapon. With what? Asked the small Centauri delegate. They control our weapons systems. They have ships we cannot see. They know where all our fleets are located. Elder Mordoon stood slowly, his star-like eyes dim with thought. The question is not whether we can fight them. The question is whether we should. The chamber fell quiet at his words. The ancient Etherian rarely spoke during council meetings, but when he did, others listened. Explain, Chancellor Vextar said. They offered us terms, Morden continued. Reasonable terms. They want only the empty systems, the dead worlds, the places we cannot use. They do not seek to conquer us or rule over us. You believe them? Gorak asked with a snort. Did they lie about their ships? Did they lie about their technology? Did they lie about their capabilities? Morden's voice grew stronger. Everything they told us has proven true. Why would they lie about their intentions? Before anyone could answer, a soft chime indicated an incoming message. Chancellor Vextar activated the communication system, and a holographic figure appeared in the center of the chamber. It was Jake Morrison, still wearing his simple uniform. Sorry to interrupt, the human said with that same calm smile. Just wanted to let you know that our ships are starting to withdraw from your territories. Should be clear of your space within the next few hours. Several council members exchanged glances. Gorak leaned forward suspiciously. What is the meaning of this? No meaning, Jake replied. We said we'd leave when the meeting was over. The meeting's over, so we're leaving. Just like that? Sharthak's crystal body showed confused colors. Just like that. We keep our word. Jake paused. Oh, And your weapon systems are back online now. Everything should be working normally. Chancellor. Vextar checked his control panels. The warning lights had indeed gone out. All systems showed green. Why return control to us? Because we said we would. Look, we could have disabled your systems permanently, or taken control of your station, or done any number of unpleasant things. But that's not what we want. What do you want? Elder Morden asked. Jake's expression became more serious. We want what every growing species wants: room to expand, resources to harvest, places for our people to live and work. We don't want your worlds, but we do want a seat at the table when decisions are made about the galaxy. A seat on the council, Chancellor Vextar said slowly. A permanent seat, Jake confirmed. With full voting rights. We think we've earned it. War Minister Gorak made a sound of disgust. Earned? You have been in space for less than a century. And in that time, we've built a civilization that rivals any of yours, Jake replied calmly. We've solved problems you've been struggling with for thousands of years. We've colonized worlds you consider uninhabitable. We've developed technologies you didn't think were possible. He paused, looking around the chamber through the holographic connection. More importantly, we're here whether you like it or not. You can accept us as partners, or you can waste time and resources trying to fight us. The choice is yours. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the council in silence once again. Chancellor Vextar was the first to speak. The humans present us with a difficult choice. Do they? Elder Mordun asked. They want empty systems we do not use. They want recognition we cannot prevent them from taking. They want cooperation instead of conflict. Where is the difficulty? The difficulty, Gorak said through gritted teeth, is that they are making demands instead of requests. They are dictating terms instead of negotiating. Are they? The small Centauri delegate spoke up. They could have taken what they wanted, by force. They demonstrated they have the power. Instead, they are asking for our agreement. Around the chamber, quiet conversations began. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves discussing the human situation. Old alliances and rivalries seemed less important now that everyone faced the same new reality. Sharthok's crystal body gradually shifted to a neutral, blue color. Perhaps we should consider their proposal seriously. What do we lose by granting them a council seat? We lose our monopoly on galactic power, Gorak said bitterly. Did we ever really have it? Asked the Centauri delegate. If the humans can do what they demonstrated today, how many other young species might be capable of similar surprises? That thought sent a chill through the chamber. The galaxy was vast, with thousands of species they had dismissed as primitive or unimportant. If humanity could rise so quickly, what about the others? Elder Morden stood again, his ancient frame straightening with decision. I move that we grant the humans a seat on the council. The proposal hung in the air like a challenge. One by one, other delegates began to nod or signal agreement. Even some of Gorak's allies among the Chromalians were reconsidering their positions. Chancellor Vextar looked around the chamber, counting votes with his 4 eyes. Very well, we will vote. All in favor of granting humanity a permanent seat on the Galactic Council? The vote was closer this time, but the result was clear. 7 species voted in favor, 4 opposed, 1 abstained. Humanity had won its place at the table. 3 days later, Ambassador Rick Taylor walked into the council chamber again. This time, he was expected. This time, there was a chair waiting for him with a small plaque that read, Earth-Human Alliance. But Rick Taylor still walked down that central aisle like he owned the place. Because now, in a very real sense, he did. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had entered not just the council chamber, but the galactic community itself, on their own terms. They had not asked for permission or waited for invitation. They had simply taken their place and dared anyone to stop them, and no one had.